And from Lagos State, we turn our attention to the war between Russia and Ukraine. The Ukrainian military administration says its air defense system has intercepted more than 30 drones launched by Russia into Kyiv overnight. Moscow launched several waves of drones on Kyiv in what is considered one of the war's biggest attacks targeting Ukraine. The Ukrainian capital was under air raid alerts nearly all night. While the full scale of the attack is not immediately clear, there's been no immediate comment from Russia. Let's bring in the VOA correspondent Anna Chenikova in Kyiv. Anna, good to see you.
Good evening.
Right. Is the Ukrainian capital safe as we speak?
Well, at this point, yes. So no air raid alarm, no consequences as it could have been from the attack. All drones were destroyed, and at this point, there is no information about any damages or casualties.
And this is Russia's seventh attack on the city since July. Has there been any retaliatory action from Ukraine on Russia?
You're right. The Ukrainian capital has been under attack, quite a lot of times this month during July. And what we can see from what Ukrainian side is doing as an answer for such attacks, Ukrainian special services are trying to target as much energy and oil facilities on the territory of Russia as possible. And sometimes Ukrainian attacks are quite successful. Of course, we cannot really compare the amount and the size of the attacks by Russia and Ukraine. Of course, Ukraine has much less capacities for that. But this is something that Ukrainian forces are also doing, and Ukrainian armed forces are trying to reach Russian targets deep into Russian territory when it is possible, and when Ukrainian forces have capacities for that, and also on the sea. And we're also hearing some successful operations also on the sea. But again, as I said, it cannot be compared to to the attack that Russia is doing.
And an air raid alert remained in place most of the night in Kyiv and most parts of central and eastern Ukraine. Speak to us about the psychological effects on this. So are people already used to the atmosphere created by the war?
It's actually a very interesting question, because I can say that, you cannot really get used completely to war, to attacks, to shelling. However, I talked to different people, and some people are saying that, despite more than 2 years of full-scale invasion and constant attacks, they are still very nervous, and they cannot really get used to the fact that this is happening, and every attack and every air raid alarm, these people would go to the shelter no matter what. Some other people are saying that, they're kind of get used to the fact that this is happening, and this is kind of a new reality here in Ukraine. And a lot of people go to the shelter only when government is reporting that certain danger is targeting their region. So when it's not about their region, they ignore basically the air raid alarm, or just keep their eye on the situation and go to the shelter only when there are reports that their region is under the attack. And some people, like for instance, over tonight, I talked to some people in the morning, and they said that, we did not have normal electricity for a couple of days, and then yesterday in the evening we did not have any power outages, so we were doing our home tasks and everything which requires electricity, and we were so tired that we just slept over the attack and didn't hear anything. So it's really very different psychological state of people, but in general I can say that definitely you cannot just completely get used to, but Ukrainians have to and trying their best to integrate this war into their everyday life. Otherwise, it would have been impossible to just continue living and continue working.
And what's everyday life like in Ukraine or in Kyiv, where you are?
Well, yeah, it depends on the region, of course. If we're talking about Kyiv, mainly Kyiv is living their new reality. So business is going as usual, but under the shelling, under the missiles and drones. I cannot say that that missile and drone attacks are collapsing the city or stop a city from moving on. So even if we remember the horrible attack that happened also during this month on the children's hospital, of course, it was a great shock. Of course, a certain part of the city was blocked, but still the business was ongoing, the life was ongoing, so people just keep their track, because otherwise it would have been much more difficult psychologically to survive this situation. And in Kyiv is more or less fine, similarly to the western part of the country. And under fine, I mean that front line is not that close to experience artillery shelling or air bombs being dropped from the. But if we're talking, of course, about south and eastern regions, the situation is much worse, and people survive under artillery and bombs shelling every day. And of course, business is not that active there, and but still some businesses are trying their best to survive as well, and people likewise. So, well, this is probably what I can report at this moment.
Right, Anna, thanks for your time, and please do stay safe.
Thank you.